We are going to take another look at layout, CSHTML, and talk about some things that you may not be aware of yet. So I'm going to close some of these. I have way too much open. Here's my layout. And you already know that Razor code combines HTML and C#, lets us embed C# in our page. Sometimes the rendering engine can get a little confused with Razor code. If that happens, you can use curly braces around the code. And you may have noticed that in some of the views. So we have the @ and an opening curly, then we have the code, and then we have the closing curly. Any time the rendering engine isn't recognizing your Razor code, you want to set it up like this. Okay, and that should take care of the problem, assuming that you've entered the code correctly. We have already talked a little bit about the content folder and the fact that that's got our CSS in it. And that is also where images would go. And we have our bootstrap files in there as well. The CSS that's used by the layout and all your pages is site CSS. And you can actually change that. Just keep in mind that if you open it and change it, you are changing it for all of your views. So anything that you want uniform, across all your pages should be entered in here. Okay, you should put it in site.css. Okay, so if there's any setting that you don't like, you can actually change it. And one thing a lot of people don't like is this extra padding on top of the body. It puts sometimes a space above the navigation bars that they don't like. So they come in here and change that. So that's one thing that I'm going to point out, that if you noticed it on all your pages and you did not like it, you can certainly come in here and change it. In addition to changing the site CSS, if you only want custom CSS on 1 or 2 pages, then you are better off creating your own CSS file. And you would put this CSS file in your content folder, and then you would pull it into whatever views that you wanted to change. And again, if you do pull anything into your views, you will need to, if you do create any kind of CSS, you do have to pull it into your views. Because you'll notice in layout that it's pulling in all of the CSS here. Okay, so you would want to make sure that you are pulling in your individual file. And let's see, action links. So to create a new action link, to me, the easiest thing to do is copy one of the links that's there and paste it, and then you can customize it. So the way these are working, this is your display string. This is the action method. This is the controller. And quite often, the action method and the display string are the same. And we will be adding to this. If you wanted to add a link to a view or a different page, you can do so by adding the action link. If you need to include a class or an ID, you can do that. In fact, up here, it's showing you how to add a class. And IDs are very similar. The difference is instead of at class, you have at ID equals, and then you'd give it whatever you were going to use for your ID. The scripts that we have are located here in your script folder. And you can pull those in directly as well. In the layout, you'll notice that we've got scripts.render and it says bundles /jQuery. And if you notice in our scripts folder, we have a lot of jQuery files. So basically it's just going to pull all of them in. Same goes with Bootstrap. We've got bundles /bootstrap. You'll notice that we have several different Bootstrap files, so it's pulling them all in. So if you're looking for a bundles folder, right, we have a scripts folder, we have a content folder, and you might be thinking, where is bundles? Bundles is located inside App Start, and it's a configuration file. Okay, and so basically what this is telling it is to include all the jQuery files in a bundle. Okay, here we're including all the modernizer files in a bundle, and it's telling it where to get these files from. And it does the same thing for Bootstrap and for the Bootstrap and CSS files that are in content. Okay, so it's just basically creating the bundles. So basically, scripts contains your library files, and the bundle config, which we are currently looking at, connects those library files to your MVC application. Basically, bundling them together so you can pull them in. Otherwise, you'd have to have a lot of different lines of code to pull in each individual file. Now, if you are paying close attention, you'll notice that we have a couple different jQuery bundles. So when you're pulling in libraries, the order is important. And so we have to pull in jQuery before we pull in jQuery validate. Okay, and jQuery has to be pulled in before we pull in Bootstrap. So anytime you want to do any type of updating, you should be using the NuGet package manager because it will keep the proper order of the files. Okay, and if you pull the files in the wrong order, then things are not going to work. And let me close out of these, and we'll take another look at layout. And specifically, we are going to look at render section. So render section lets you place any type of tag, like a header tag or a script tag, in the layout page. And it basically lets you indicate whether it's true or false. So your views don't have to include it. So if you set it to false, then some of the views may have it, some may not, and that's okay. So you'll notice down here we've got render section, scripts is kind of like a default and it's not required. So this is basically allowing a script tag to be added, but you can use other types of tags. So I have a little example here for you. So this is the employee index. If we wanted to do at section header, and we wanted to add that, and then we wanted to have another section that we're calling scripts, we can do that, okay? When they are pulled into the layout page, where we've got render section header, required false, this is where it would put it. And then the script would be pulled in down here. Okay, so render section header, is that in there by default? Do we see that in here? No, it is something that we added. So if you may have a particular section of code that you want in a particular location, okay, so you want the header above the body, okay, you can add that section, render section, above render body, and as long as you put required false, your views may or may not use it. Okay, and all it's doing is looking for a header tag. It doesn't matter what's inside the header. Okay, so in your various pages, you may have different headers. I think the example in the notes is referring to that the file is an internal document, but quite often a header is used, you know, for a title and some kind of branding graphic. Okay, so if that's how you wanted to use it and you always wanted it above the body, certainly acceptable to do at render section here. You just tell it the tag name is header. So we are going to be working with the layout file and with our views. And we'll be doing that in the next couple hands-on.